Hi, we are Concrete Canoe. We are a team that designs, builds, and races a concrete canoe every year. What started off as a professor's ridiculous dare has transformed into an international phenomenon, with teams from Mexico to the US to India racing every year.
Look at how this concrete looks.
But before we get into it, let's talk about what concrete is. Concrete is made up of 4 materials: water, cement, fine aggregate, and coarse aggregate. Now, an aggregate is basically just a fancy word for a rock. So a fine aggregate are really small rocks like sand, and coarse aggregates are large rocks like gravel. The water and cement bond together to create the glue that holds concrete together and creates a material that can support buildings, roads, and even canoes.
Now let's talk about density. Density is a term that describes how much something weighs relative to how much space it takes up. For instance, we use city mix in our concrete, which has a very light density, compared to water, which has a very heavy density. Let's weigh them both.
The first step to building an award-winning concrete canoe is the design process. We create our hull design using a computer program called Delta, and we base our canoe off of past paddlers' experiences and feedback. For example, if the paddler says the canoe is too short and is difficult to turn, we shorten the canoe.
Once we know what the canoe will look like, we then send the specifications off to the mix team so they can create the concrete mix. This is where we make sure the concrete can perform to the highest level. We test multiple samples each week and look for strength, density, buoyancy, and appearance of the concrete. Now off to construction to discuss how we actually build the canoe.
Once we have our mix and shape, our recipe for a concrete canoe is almost complete. All that's left is to actually assemble the canoe. We start by cutting a foam mold of the canoe. Following this, we hold casting day where we place concrete into the mold. Usually concrete has a very flowable texture, but in our case, it feels like Play-Doh. After a few weeks, our concrete canoe is finished. I'll hand it off to the paddling team so they can talk about how we prepare for conferences.
One of the most exciting parts of our competition is watching the paddle race at conference. Our paddling sub-team practices all year long to get race ready by canoeing at the nearby lake and going to the gym in the winter to get super strong.
Okay. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to change things up. Since constructing a full-scale canoe was not possible, we decided to scale down and make a mini canoe. Since we could not go to test the canoe in a race, we tested the canoe in a float tank. Basically, small flags were taped on the canoe to see if the canoe was streamlined. Flags that separated from the canoe showed locations that were not hydrodynamic.
The project we worked on was the GPS tracker for the canoe. We made a small computer and it tracks where the canoe is. We can use this test to see how efficient our turns were once we got our canoe on the water. In the meantime, we used a bike and rode down our quad.
Concrete canoe is a great way to get involved here at the University of Illinois. You learn new things, meet new people, and gain an appreciation for the coolest material ever. If you have the opportunity to go to U of I really encourage you guys to join Concrete Canoe. Thank you for watching.